Alright, so I just got out of Captive, and it was actually better than what I thought it was going to be. I really had no idea what this movie was going in, because all I kind of saw was a preview for it, like, a week or so ago. Basically, from what I saw from the trailer, it's like Ryan Reynolds trying to get his daughter back after she's been kidnapped by, like, child pornographers. I thought it was going to be, like, Taken or something. If you're going to this movie expecting that, then you're going to be extremely disappointed. The first half hour of this movie is the most annoying piece of shit I've ever seen. Basically, the first half hour skips around a lot because the director wanted that way. It starts with, like, the girl who's kidnapped singing a song and talking to her kidnapper, and then it skips to, like, a scene of her mother, like, talking to one of the police detectives, and then it skips again to, like, the father being accused of kidnapping. Then it talks to a detective talking about another detective that went missing. And then it kind of, like, eventually starts flowing into, like, actual order. But there doesn't seem to be a reason why the first half hour is, like, the most random and jarbled bit of cinema I've seen in a long time. Like, not even Quentin Tarantino or David Lynch directs like this. This was a very off-putting way of directing a movie. Like, because there'd be like 10-20 minutes on a scene. Like, the whole thing about the girl first being kidnapped when she was like 10. Like, it was that for like 10 minutes or so, and then all of a sudden, without warning, without any transition, it just cuts to, like, the same detective, like, 10 years later or something. Like, it's very off-putting. Or it'll skip to, like, the kidnapper 8 years later. Eventually it starts to flow better and, like, be more linear, like, with its storytelling. Parts where this movie was good. Ryan Reynolds is actually really good in this, even if he's not in the movie that much. It's not until, like, the very end of the movie when he kind of takes center stage. The first hour of the movie or so is the detectives investigating it, more or less. One of them's played by Scott Speedman and Rosanio Dawson. They're good in it. Like, I don't really know. Like, they don't really have characters. They're just, like, Rosanio Dawson is just your stereotypical detective, and Speedman's character is your, like, typical, like, doesn't like pedophiles detective. Like, he starts accusing Ryan Reynolds of, like, selling his daughter to, like, make ends meet. Like, his whole character, though most of the film, is an asshole, and there's not even a subplot as to why he stops being an asshole halfway through the film. Like, it just, maybe it's because Rosanio Dawson gets kidnapped in the film. It doesn't really say, because, like, out of all the dickish things to do, the reason why she got pissed off at him was because he was using his daughter as, like, bait for the people on the website. And, like, seriously, that was actually the smartest thing he did. Like, they were so close to finding the kidnapped girls, and then Rosanio Dawson walks in, and she, like, kind of, like, spoils everything, and she's like, oh my god, what were you doing, sort of thing. And it just, I don't know if that's what kind of makes him go back on the straight and narrow, or it's just kind of fucked up. And my main complaint with this movie, besides the choppy pacing, is the fact that there's no transition between when she gets kidnapped to 8 years later when the story picks up. There's no, like, explanation for why the fuck this happened. Like, or at least stand with the cops standing around with their thumbs up their asses for 8 years. Like, I can understand if it's like a year later, sure, a year or 2 years later. In real life, I think it might take maybe 8 years, maybe less time, if they were focusing the investigation in the wrong area. It's just that they kind of had a fair amount to go on. in the movie, so there's no reason why they had to fail this badly. No, another thing with this is I was kind of expecting an action movie going in. What I got was more of like, David Lynch meets Gone Baby Gone. Which, I don't know, just the directing style reminded me of David Lynch. Like, this was another thing about this film, it's very cerebral. Like, the color palette for like the first half hour is very different from the rest of the film. It's a very unique movie. The better parts of the film, like I said, are Ryan Reynolds. He's actually really good in this. And the other good part about the movie is the guy who plays the kidnapper, the pedophile guy there. He played one of the brothers in Smokin' Aces, and he also plays a vet in The Strain there. I'm trying to think of what his name is, but he's really creepy in this. Like, Jesus Christ. He's like really nice when he's talking to the girl. Kevin Durand. It's Kevin Durand. But yeah. He's just wow in this movie. He's very just nice to her, but he's like kind of like sinister about, like, I like the way you wrote that poem. It was so very sensitive and senseful. Like, just, he kind of gives you shivers on the back of your spine. Like, other than that, like, there's a wife in the story too, but she doesn't really show up that much in it. Like, she really only shows up to be like a bitchy wife in it, and I was really annoyed by one of the things in the movie because of the choppy fucking way the movie goes for the first half of it. Is they were watching the wife through like surveillance cameras in like a motel room, and the way the movie goes, you're never really sure if this is currently happening or has happened or what's the deal. And they like start showing her like all these like hints about her daughter, like, here's some baby teeth, here's some windmills, here's a trophy she won. And I'm like, okay, did this woman go to the cops at any point when this shit was happening? And it, like, 20 minutes before the actual finale of the film happens, it turns out, yeah, she did. And nothing came of it, really. Like, they couldn't... There's... their basic excuse as for why they can't solve this crime is computers and technology. They're so good at disguising all this. Which, yes, more or less is true, especially when it comes to white-collar crime. Sex slavery rings, I'm not really too sure. Like, white-collar crime, yeah, the technology there is always ahead of people who can investigate it, but I don't know, that's just really a shitty excuse to use in your movie to keep it going. Like, that's like in The Following, when the only reason people are there is so they can die, so the bad guys can get away. Like, and I feel like maybe if this movie wasn't told in chronological order, that you would actually notice more of these flaws in the movie. But seriously, Ryan Reynolds' acting is good, and the finale of it, like the last 10-20 minutes when he finds out, like, who took his daughter, how he finds out about it is kind of weird. Like, he's walking into a rink she used to go to, and one of the co-kidnappers, this woman, is interviewing the daughter's, like, friend, and he gets really suspicious on that, follows her to a diner, confronts them, sort of, like, passive-aggressively confronts them, steals her phone, they try to chase him down, he calls the cops come, and they basically track the kidnappers, and they rescue the girl, and the kidnappers die. It just felt really easy, and I was half expecting a twist or a cop-out of some sort. Like, she had, like, Stockholm Syndrome or something, like she didn't want to go home, or like the kidnappers planned for her to go home and they just like, they wanted to go like suicide by cop at the end or something. But no, like it just kind of like wrapped up on a bizarrely happy note. Like, this the first, like, whole movie of this wasn't, like, happy. It was, like, kept on mentioning, like, oh, in this line of work, there's very rarely happy endings. Like, I was expecting some twist like that, where it was, like, kind of like a kick in the gut of an ending. But it seemed like everything worked out surprisingly well. Like, no, the girl doesn't have PTSD or isn't planning on, like, luring more children to another group of kidnappers or something like that. Like, that would have been kind of dark, but it would have been kind of cool, I think. But I don't know, if you can catch this on, like, a matinee or something, then yeah, I'd go to it. There's a lot worse things right now to go see. I'm just trying to think what's currently playing. Guardians, which, if you haven't seen Guardians already, then you're probably not going to see it. Boyhood, which isn't, I don't know, it's not my cup of tea. If I Stay, which I haven't seen yet either. As Above, So Is Below, which I heard is god-awful. Let's Be Cops, which I saw, and it was decent. In all honesty, if you don't want to see this, if a dramatic version of, like, Taken isn't really your thing, then I would suggest waiting and seeing my review on Tusk and Walk Among the Tombstones, see if those movies tickle your fancy, because I have a feeling that those movies are going to be fantastic. Trailers I got for this. The Drop, which this movie must have been in post-production for a long fucking time, because James Gandolfini's in this fucker. He died, like, I think it's 2 years ago now, or a year ago, which is tragic and sad still, but, like, he's in this as, like, a main role, and so I'm assuming this film has been in development hell for a very long fucking time. The other one was St. Vincent, which, as I said before, it's Bill Murray. It's gonna be awesome. Bill Murray's gonna be good in it. The kid that's in this looks like he actually can carry his own. And Melissa McCarthy, it looks like she's not going to be doing her fat person shtick, which is good, because Melissa McCarthy is in such danger of becoming the Adam Sandler of fat women, which I would hate to see. Because we've seen in a few films that she can actually be decent when she doesn't do the whole fat person shtick, which works for her, but sometimes you have to step outside your comfort zone to really do well. You can either be respected by critics and hated by audiences, or loved by audiences and hated by critics. That's the way I always look at it. There's very rarely a middle ground. And the other one was the one with Simon Pegg there, where he's, like, looking for happiness. This looks really close to Walter Mitty, in all honesty, like, where a guy breaks free from his humdrum life to go across the globe and, like, prove to himself that he's not just a nobody. But I don't know if I'll see it in theaters, but I would definitely watch it on demand. It looks very, like, worthwhile watching. It doesn't look like it's going to be terrible. Simon Pegg's always a really good actor. And that's basically my review of Captive. There's fucking 2 or 3 different titles for this thing. My just one last closing thought on it, or one thing that I enjoyed, was the child actresses that they had for both younger casts and older casts. They weren't annoying. I find children actors are very difficult to get that are good. The one in Anchorman 2 was surprisingly good, because he knew that he was supposed to be playing one of those, like, chocolate wasted little kids, like, just one of those ironic, like, cheesy children. In this one, I don't know, the actress they have for both of them, like, the little girl, she seems really innocent, and, like, the banter she has back and forth with Ryan Reynolds, the chemistry in that one scene is great, and it works. And then the older one they have, when she's been, like, abducted, she does seem, like, very depressed, but she seems like she's been in this world long enough that she's more or less knows her way around it now. And you don't always know what's going on in her head in those scenes, which is very, very cool, and that's very difficult to pull off, especially for a young actor or actress. But yeah, there's worse things to go to, in all honesty. If the whole time skipping thing sounds like it's going to piss you off, then wait to go see this. Like, wait till it's on demand or something and just skip through the first, like, little bit. So I will see you maybe tomorrow with my review of The Strain. I've been kind of falling behind on that just because of school and everything, but I will try to get a review of that up tomorrow. So see you guys then.